The weirdest cheated speedrun world record. Is that about the guy who did the blindfolded record run for Super Mario 64, but he wasn't actually blindfolded, he could see through it the entire time? No, it's about Celeste. Really? Let me see. Oh. The weirdest cheated speedrun record. For a brief moment, I understood everything about Celeste speedrunning, and I've never even played the game. Oh, I've heard nothing but great things about the game. At some point, I'm sure I'll play it. There's a sequel coming out, right? Didn't they announce that at one of the Game Awards? But yeah, I'm sure at some point I'll play it. There's a spiritual successor coming out? Oh, gotcha. Same people, different game. Okay. I'll never understand just taking someone at their word on some shit like this. Like, I got this time, this record. No, I don't have proof, though. Just trust me. Let me get the gist.
In late April of 2019, the Global Speedrun Association hosted an event titled PACE 2019. This live, in-person event featured the finale of the organization's 3 speedrunning leagues for Super Mario 64, Super Mario Odyssey, and Celeste. The top 4 players of these online leagues would battle for the greatest shares of the tournament's prize pools. Today, we're going to look at the Celeste League, which featured a $5,000 developer-sponsored prize pool. The 4 Celeste speedrunners who qualified for the event were TGH, Flittervy, Chai Kitty, and myself.
Nice.
All 4 of these runners were potential world record contenders, so the competition would be incredibly tight. A week prior to PACE, TGH had claimed the world record with a time of 27:50, and the pressure was on the other runners to match similar times, in person and in front of a live audience. Thankfully, all of the other runners would deliver. The 4-day event would feature some incredible races, but the PACE 2019 $5,000 Celeste tournament would only be the second most notable thing in Celeste speedrunning history that weekend. Even though the first, second, third, and 5th place Celeste Any% speedrunners were away competing at Xanadu Games, a very peculiar image was circulating amongst the Celeste speedrunning community. A final time of 27 minutes and 43 seconds. This would be a world record time by almost 7 seconds. We already know it wasn't one of the top 4 runners who got this record, so who achieved this incredible feat? You might think it would be the 4th place speedrunner, Nero X2, but that is not the case. In fact, the speedrunner who performed this run had no submitted time on the leaderboards.
No, that's so sketchy.
His name is penguinz, and he is a really interesting speedrunner.
I thought he was going to come out with the claws and be like, he's a bitch.
Speedrunning is still a relatively niche hobby. As a result, tightly knit communities develop around it. Speedrunners often participate in their games' communities, sharing their progress and broadcasting their runs. Some do this to grow a community and possibly become famous, but most just want to submit runs and share their accomplishments.
I feel like most people don't speedrun with the idea of being famous for it. Speedrunning is super fucking niche. I can't imagine that's the motivation for people to get into speedrunning. Usually it's with a game they're super passionate about. There's only a few speedrunners I can think of that even do variety speedruns, like Distortion, Spicy, Zach. It's usually just more like one person speedruns one thing forever, and then just plays other games. Oh, Small Ant is another good example. Small Ant's another good example.
However, penguinz was different. penguinz would rarely share his personal best times. When he did upload his
but I'm not like a
top
level speedrunner.
Speedrun.com leaderboards, he would frequently remove his submissions later, as when he deemed a personal best unsatisfactory, he would delete it from the leaderboards. While penguinz did stream runs on Twitch, the majority of his best Celeste achievements were accomplished offline. So for most speedrunners and viewers, penguinz was not a well-known name, and he definitely was not in the conversation as a Celeste Any% world record contender. The only exception was a small group of top runners who penguinz communicated with regularly. Many of these runners were aware of his runs and great skill at Celeste, as he had claimed to have unrecorded chapter world records, and many did not doubt these claims.
Why? Why wouldn't you doubt him though?
From the snippets of penguinz's gameplay that he did upload, his talent and dedication to the game was very evident. Many people in this group of top runners were aware that penguinz was doing a massive offline grind in the month of April. His goal? The Celeste Any% world record. This would obviously be quite a feat, as the top Celeste runs are incredibly competitive. so the odds were certainly stacked against Phoenix. Well, on April 28, 2019, Phoenix would shatter his goal, as he achieved a time of 27:43,
but he
which
spliced.
was submitted to the leaderboards and promptly verified.
I bet it's a splice.
Phoenix was the Celeste Any Percent world record holder. A world record is obviously an incredible achievement, and usually it is an accomplishment that the runner is proud of. It's kind of like a virtual trophy that's displayed for everyone else to see. But Phoenix's run was really, really weird. Visually, the run featured a picture of a large green bird in the bottom right corner, with the accompanying text, "Long live Archie." The run also had no timer. Usually speedrunners use a program called Live Split to time their speedruns. That wasn't present at all, and Celeste's in-game timer was also turned off. This was actually fine for leaderboards at the time. There was no rule stating you needed to have a timer on, as the game would still show you your final in-game time after completing the game. However, it was still weird, as almost no runners ran like this. Other than that, it was just a really fast Celeste speedrun. The audible portion of the speedrun was even more bizarre. The game audio was completely muted, and in its place was a variety of Grant McDonald's Ram Ranch music.
Oh,
I'm not going to play
good
this
taste
music at all here, since it is incredibly inappropriate, but you might recognize this music series
beauty's in the
for
eyes
its
of the
iconic
beholder.
line of 18 naked cowboys. If you know the song, you know how out of place it would be for a world record speedrun. Of course, this speedrun was uploaded to YouTube, but with this weird speedrun comes a weird title, as instead of naming it something like Celeste Any Percent Speedrun in 27:43, it was instead called Celeste 2 Berries World Record. Phoenix categorized this speedrun not by its impressive feat in the Any Percent category, but rather by the fact that it collects 2 optional collectibles. Just for the record, 2 berries is obviously not a category that Celeste speedrunners attempt to run. Needless to say, this is not a speedrun that would go in a virtual trophy case. To the average person,
the Ram
it
Ranch
appeared
shit's
that
pretty
Phoenix
cool.
was not at all proud of this speedrun. Because of the oddities surrounding this run, and the general community's lack of familiarity with Phoenix as a top runner, some community members decided to further investigate the run's legitimacy. And after less than 24 hours of investigation, it was concluded that this run was illegitimate. So, how did they arrive at this conclusion? Well, Celeste has collectible red berries. There are 175 of them in total, and while there are categories that collect these berries, the popular Any Percent category does not require any of these berries to be collected. We usually coincidentally get at least 2 berries, due to speed strats, one in the Celestial Resort and one in the Summit, but other than that, these collectibles are ignored in the speedrun. However, for casual players, they can pick and choose what berries they collect, and the game helps them track their progress, because if they pause the game, at the bottom of the screen there will be a berry indicator. There is a gray notch if a particular berry has not been collected yet. If the berry gets collected while the player is still in the level, the notch will be replaced with a red circle,
definitely use the red joystick.
Has been collected. If the player were to exit the
Good
level
reference.
and then
Good old Billy
re-enter
Mitchell.
from level select, the berry notch becomes a blue circle, indicating that the berry has already been collected in a previous session. In a speedrun, the runner will pause frequently in order to skip cutscenes. Specifically, at the very end of most chapters, the berry indicator will be visible as the player skips the final cutscene of the chapter. And for Phoenix's run, at the last chapter of the game, the Summit, there was something interesting.
The whole thing's interesting. Was it another naked cowboy?
Did you see that? Let me pause it for you.
He didn't pause. Oh.
There are actually 2 discrepancies here. First, there's a blue circle on a completely random berry. Not only is this a berry that Phoenix didn't collect in the video, but it is also highlighted blue, which means that it was collected in a previous session. And secondly, the berry that Phoenix did collect in the Summit should be marked with a red circle, as it is on legitimate speedruns. However, even though the video shows Phoenix collecting this berry, there is still a gray notch in place of where the red circle should be.
I knew it was a splice. I called it from the
This
get-go.
leads us to believe
I'm
that
nuts.
this speedrun is spliced.
Mm-hmm.
A splice is when a runner edits multiple speedruns together in order to remove mistakes and create a near-perfect
So what did he do? Just
speed
like
run.
Photoshop the time
Now,
at the end
editing
then?
a run together isn't inherently cheating. Many of my favorite speedruns are segmented runs, which are literally spliced runs that show off speedrun strategies
Didn't you say it
that
was
would be
tasks?
very hard to achieve.
Well, the first
under
thing I
normal
said was it's
circumstances.
spliced.
However, submitting a speedrun like this to a leaderboard and trying to pass it off as a normal speedrun is unacceptable. Speedrunners will attempt the same speedrun for countless hours just to find mistakes in the last stretch of the run. This is a frustrating but normal part of the process for world record perfection. Editing your way around these mistakes might create an easier avenue for a satisfying end product, but it destroys fair competition in the process. Splicing is one of the most common forms of cheating across almost all speedrunning games, and it is possibly the worst thing that a speedrunner can do.
Well, let's not get carried away. There's still a lot worse things they could do. They could, beat an old woman to death. There's plenty of things they could also do that are on, same level as splicing, if not worse, arguably.
Phoenix's video, the only logical conclusion is that this speedrun is spliced. The footage we see at the start of the summit has to be a different run from the footage we see at the end of the summit, as otherwise these berry counts would line up. And after even more investigation, moderators noticed something else very strange about the run. Remember how there was a giant green bird in the bottom right corner of Phoenix's screen? Believe it or not, this bird was complicit in Phoenix's cheating scheme.
Yeah, it's hiding
Normally,
something.
when you unlock a new checkpoint for the first time, a save icon is displayed in the bottom right corner, showing the player that their save file has been updated. However, this only happens if this is the player's first time entering the screen. If a runner were to be splicing a speedrun together, and they were on a save file where they had already beaten the level, this save icon would not be displayed. The fact that this portion of the screen was covered leads us to believe that this save icon did not appear when it should have at points in Phoenix's run. This was not hard proof like the berries, but it was incredibly compelling evidence that this run
I'd say that
was
is hard proof.
suspicious. One day after the run was verified, moderators officially announced that this speedrun was illegitimate. This was confirmed later when Phoenix would admit to splicing. As a result, the run was removed from the leaderboards, and Phoenix was given a 6-month leaderboard ban. Even when this ban was removed, Phoenix's runs would be dealt with extra scrutiny, requiring the in-game timer, audio, and for their run to be verified by multiple moderators. Because of this fake run briefly slipping onto the leaderboards, some new rules were introduced that applied to all new speedruns. An in-game timer was required to be on screen at all times.
Damn, he changed the whole
and the bottom right
landscape with
corner
this
of the screen
scheme.
could not be obstructed, so the save icon would always be visible. 99% of Celeste speedruns already followed these rules, so
Thanks,
adding
Reese
these
Galloway.
was more of a formality over anything else. Later on, Phoenix would achieve a legitimate, verifiable 2749. Even though his ban has been lifted for many months now, Phoenix has not submitted this run, and it is unknown whether he has intentions to publicly return to Celeste speedrunning. Phoenix
The bad
was
boy
undoubtedly
of
a skilled
Celeste.
speedrunner, but this event essentially ended his career as a Celeste speedrunner, and unlike an actual Phoenix, he would stay dormant and rest in the ashes of his cheated speedrun. Thanks for watching.
This was interesting. That was nice. That was like super, not concise. That's definitely not the right word for it. But it told a lot in a really short period of time. And it got the whole story out.